Chapter 6. In your church Bible, that is going to be page 813. Ephesians chapter 6. Now, we're going through a series of sermons looking for, you might want to turn me down just a little bit, Marty, because I can hear me and I hate that. We're going through a series of sermons looking at what a biblical worldview is. Today, we're going to look at the other side of the coin. But to get there, and you know, I got to tell you guys, I worked on this sermon all week, and as I'm driving, as I'm going to pick up the trailer to come here this morning, I remembered this story that I wanted to tell you, and I'm so excited that the Lord reminded me of this story, because this is a story that was told to me about my grandfather. Okay? So, I grew up in southern Missouri, out in the middle of nowhere. And where I grew up is in Houston, which is the county seat of Texas County. And if you know anything about Texas County, then you know it is the hub or the central place of hunters. People from the cities go to Texas County, and other places of course, but Texas County almost always leads the state in the amount of deer that are taken during deer season, turkey, quail, whatever. I mean, it's a big hunting area. So I was told a story about my granddad about how there was a big city, big lawyer from St. Louis, and we're talking years and years and years ago. Big lawyer from St. Louis who came down to go hunting, and he was going quail hunting. So I can't tell a story without laughing. So he was so he was hunting these quail, and he had been following a covey for quite some time, and so flushed up part of the covey, pulls down on a bird and kills the bird, and it falls on the other side of the fence row from where he's at. So he walks up to the fence line and he sets the gun down, and as he's beginning to climb the fence, here comes my grandfather along on the other side of the fence. Comes along on his old Massey Ferguson tractor and pulls up. Guy kind of gets the mount off the fence, and he's standing there, and Granddad pulls up. How you doing? Pleasantries, whatever. And Granddad says, so what are you doing? Good. Guy says, well, I'm getting ready to climb the fence here. I'm going to go over and I just shot a quail there, and I want to pick it up and go on. And Granddad said, no, sorry, I can't let you do that. And the guy goes, what are you talking about? He said, well, this is my land. My land on the other side of the fence. He said, the bird's right here in front of me. He said, bird's on my land, so it's my bird. And the lawyer says, are you stupid or what? I killed the bird. And Granddad said, and I congratulate you for a great shot. Well done. And the lawyer says, no, you don't understand. I'm just going to get the bird. He said, I'm not going to trespass on your land. I just want to get the bird. And Granddad says, you're going to climb the fence? The guy goes, yeah. He goes, well, then you're going to trespass on my land. The guy says, do you know who I am? And Granddad said, no, I don't know. He said, I am one of the top attorneys in St. Louis. He said, if I wanted to, I could bury you in legal, I could freeze your finances, I could bury you in red tape. He said, do you have any idea who? And Granddad said, no, I don't really know anything about that. All I know is that's my bird. And the lawyer's going, you are the dumbest man. And Granddad said, just take your time out. He said, we're getting off on the wrong foot. He said, I don't want to make a big deal about this, but he said, we have obviously a difference of opinions about this quail. So he said, let me tell you how we settle disputes like this down here. He said, what we do is, whenever we have a problem with something like this, he said, we settle this with the 3-kick rule. And this guy goes, what is that? And Granddad said, well, here, what we do is, he said, we'll square off on one another. And he said, you kick me 3 times as hard as you can. And then I kick you 3 times as hard as I can. So we go back and forth until finally one of us says that's enough. And whoever quits is the one who loses, and the other guy wins. And the lawyer says, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. How dumb is that? And Granddad said, well, I don't know how dumb it is, but I challenge you to a 3-kick duel. And the lawyer says, I've got you by 30 years and 30 pounds. He said, I'll kill you. And Granddad said, well, that's a possibility, but I still challenge you. So the lawyer's standing there and he's thinking, this is the dumbest thing. But he finally says, you know what, old man? He said, I'm going to teach you a lesson. You've hacked me off. He said, I accept. And Granddad said, well, climb on over the fence and let's commence the kicking. So he climbs over the fence, they square off on one, Granddad gets off the tractor, kind of look at each other, and the guy says, you know what? Just so you can never say that I did not give you a chance, he said, I'm going to let you kick first. He said, you're an old codger. He said, there ain't no, when I keep you, he said, I'm going to hurt you so bad. I don't want you saying that whatever. And Granddad said, well, I appreciate that. Now, as I understand the story, while the lawyer knew a whole lot about lawyering in St. Louis, he did not know a lot about steel-toed boots. Okay? So, as I understand the story, the first kick broke the guy's leg. Took him to his knees. The next kick kicked him in the gut so hard that he lost his breath and doubled his head over right over on the ground. And as he finally raised up to take a breath, Granddad's third kick took his first 2 teeth out, cold cocked him right on the ground on his back. So, eventually, the guy wakes up, staggers to his feet, blood pouring out of his mouth, and he says, all right, you old codger, it's my turn. And Granddad said, nah, I quit. You win, you can have the bird. Now, here's the point of that story. There's 2 things I want you to understand about that story. Number 1, my granddad never really did that. Although my granddad could have done that, but I don't think he ever did. But here's the point of that story. If you're going to get into something, you need to know what's really going on. I want us to understand today what's really going on. We've been talking about what a biblical worldview is. We've been talking about how, salvation is a gift. It's not earned. It's not deserved. It's a gift. We've been talking about how there really are moral truths. There really are moral answers to very tough questions, and that the Bible defines those moral truths. We've been talking about how Jesus Christ has lived a sinless life and offered a perfect sinless sacrifice for our salvation, which gave him the title not only Savior, but has also given us the title of High Priest, which we're going to talk about here in a second, why that's so important at another level. We've also been talking about how it is the Christian's responsibility. If I'm going to say I'm a Christian, if I'm going to claim Christ as my Savior, then that means that I accept the responsibility of telling or sharing my faith. And we talked last week about how in a postmodern society, that is all about relationships. It's not about how much you know about the Bible. Which I want to stop and say this. I think 99.9% of you in this room have said to me in one way, shape, form, at time or another that, you said, I just don't know that much about the Bible. And I want to tell you that from a postmodern world society, that is not a negative. Because if you were a biblical scholar and you stood or talked or sit down with somebody and started laying out these big, 4-syllable biblical words, they're going to shut you off and be done with it. But whenever you say, I'm just like you, I don't know that much about the Bible, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm trying to do the best I can, I want to develop, I want to do whatever, and I want you to know what I know, and you share your personal story about who Jesus Christ is, that's a whole other level. Now, yeah, we want to biblically grow, we want to develop with our Bible skills, and that's something that is going to be a big, huge thing for us in 2010. We'll talk about that in a couple weeks when we have our church meeting, but don't look at your situation on a spiritual level and say, okay, you know what, golly, I just don't know much about the Bible, so I don't know how good I can be or what kind of impact I can make. Folks, if you know people and if you know Christ, you can make a huge impact because it's all about relationships. It's not about how much Bible you know. It's about, I know who Jesus Christ is, here's what he's done for my life, and I want you to experience some of what I'm beginning to experience and learning to develop for myself. But that said, we need to understand what's really going on. Ephesians chapter 6. I'm going to start reading in verse 10. Paul says, finally being to the church at Ephesus, I want you to be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. I want you to put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood. It's against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. I'm going to read verse 12 again.